Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is the Chronicles of Apple from the apple of my eye, and I am very grateful that the Lord can use me at this time. And there's a lot of news going on in Israel, and I'm actually afraid to look into it. They just had a lot of fires going on, but there were also 100 Hamas fighters that are captured, and supposedly the population of Hamas is about 25 to 30,000. That's a lot of people, but I think at least about 10 to maybe 12,000 have been eliminated or surrendered, which leaves another half. So they're going to have until the end of the year for this war, and probably going to end the war during Hanukkah. But I personally am praying that there will be more things coming in the brickwork in terms of the people that are in support of Israel. And I know personally I am taking a little bit, just a teeny tiny bit of a beating over it because, I do communicate with my friends regarding, my support for Israel and why having been to Israel for 4 years, I totally trust that Israel knows what they're doing. And I'm not worried about, there's, uh, there's some disunity happening, which is not unlikely because of the diversity of Jews, and so Jews are like from just every color. It is like the United Nations within their own within the same family. So I told my friends, I said, what you think of Israel is not at all what it is, because a lot of them had that concept of colonialism and perception that Jews are like white people. And somebody says, well, not all Jews are really Jews in Israel, like, and I'm like, yeah, of course, not all of them are Jews, because there's Arabs there, there's foreigners there, there's a lot of gay people there that took refuge in Israel. There's a lot of women there that would prefer to be in Israel. So I'm like, of course, there are going to be a lot of people that there are people from communistic country that would rather be in Israel. Okay. Not to mention the Filipinos that would rather have a job in Israel than be in the Philippines. So there are a lot of people in Israel that may call themselves Jews but are not really Jews, but who cares? Okay. The issue there is that um, there are the ethnic Jews, and those ethnic Jews has carried their tradition for so long, okay, from all parts of the world. And I think there's a lot of speculation because there is a lot of a deepening and more explicitly anti-Semitic rhetoric that is like bleeding all over the world. And I'm not totally surprised, but I was quite shocked at the number of Christians that are having difficulty uh, discerning the time. The eschatology within my church alone is so diverse. And their perception of Israel is also in different gradient. Okay, so we do have people that are highly in support of Israel, such as myself, maybe not as vocal, but they do stand for Israel, and I am really praying and hoping that nobody would take seriously whatever they're trying to send in the pipeline, where we cannot protest for Israel because of people getting arrested. And I'm like, well, you get arrested for assault, okay? So defamation of character, you can get it, you can get subpoenaed for that. And pushing and shoving students and teachers, not allowing them to go to work, yeah, you can get arrested for that. Anytime you're touching somebody to push them, you can get arrested, because that is assault, and that is part of our constitution. We have the right, okay? We have the right for our freedom. This is why we come in this country. And I happened to blurt out, I walked in with some of my friends have an argument, and I wasn't sure what that was about. And one is thinking, oh well, the people protesting, they're quiet people. How come we can't criticize Israel and we can't say this or we can't say that? And I'm like, well, everybody's allowed to criticize. Is this, but those protests are definitely more physical. And there's a lot of things that they are doing, and it's unrealistic. Their demands in the school are so unrealistic. They wanted to divest. Why do you care? Why do you want to divest? Okay. And why? I mean, if you're willing to take money, if people in the faculty and the establishment and the institution are receiving money from places like Qatar, okay, if they're willing to accept money from those people that have very different ideologies than the US, why are we supposed to go against Israel? Why would you cut that out? And on top of that, if you really look at it, a lot of these, there's just a lot of, what is what is right is wrong and wrong is right. This is what's happening to society. And I was basically, what I mean is that there's this group, which I'm pretty sure whether they changed their name or not, I feel as though like Antifa was right there with all those riots. Okay, the moment a group of people start protesting, in a few weeks time with the media, something will blow up because the professional rioters, the Antifa, will be there. And Antifa is supposed to be anti-fascist, but they are fascists. And all these people talking about colonialism, well, they've colonized places. If I may if I may say this, okay, Filipinos are basically Indonesians and Malayans that had to run away from their country over the fact that Indonesia and Malaysia was being colonized by Islamists, okay? That's really what happened in Asia. I'm not putting down those countries and saying that I'm better and that Filipinos are better, but I'm just saying Filipinos just doesn't have the heart to become a Muslim. Most of us did not, okay? There are still Filipinos that are becoming Muslim too, and a lot of Filipinos working in all of the Middle Eastern places. And, I am, my heart bleeds for my own people personally, because, as a young girl, I remember talking to somebody. She was a social worker in Saudi Arabia. I don't know if it was Abu Dhabi, I cannot remember, or Riyadh, or one of those. And she was bored, and she says maybe I should work and make extra money. Well, that extra money wasn't worth it, because whoever she was with, she said the guy had a lot of money, the wife is so beautiful, they have beautiful children, and then one day he pops in with a case of lipsticks. And she's like, no, I don't want any lipsticks. No, you can have all these lipsticks, he said, and I just want one kiss. He just wanted one kiss. And she says, no. Anyway, she had a scar on her arm, and I was curious about it. And she says that, oh, you're too young to know. But she says a lot of things happened while she was in Saudi Arabia. Because I remember this woman had left for Saudi Arabia to work and then came back, and she was my neighbor. So, as a social worker, she said that there's a lot of people. Now, I am not sure if she practically got assaulted and she fought, because why couldn't she tell me what was the scar about? So we have a lot of women all over the Middle East that cannot speak of such things, okay? And these people that keep talking about the Jewish people colonizing Israel, I mean, that's really funny, because the Muslims colonize a lot of places. In fact, right now, I think they are colonizing Europe. I honestly believe that. I think that they come in as a refugee, but then their goal it's like deep inside, you know, there, and there's a level of control that this religion have, who want them to dominate the place, and they look down on the people there. And you will see Britain saying, this is London, this is not Londonistan, okay? This is Paris, this is not Paristan, okay? So it's not, you know, just like how India, all these Indians were Indians until Islamic colonization took place, and guess what? We ended up with Pakistan. So then these people that are talking about these, oh, there is a really good, I gotta bring this up because I am so thankful that she is on board. I was listening to her, and then eventually I was listening to a lot of music to feel better. Where is it? Oh, I gotta find her. Some Iranian woman that was basically speaking out, and I think she was raised in Britain. So brave Iranian exposes. I wanted to know her name. She's Iranian. Okay, so I'm only gonna show the people because they could easily flag me unknowing. Okay, so this lady here. Okay, for educational purpose. Okay, I wanted to say she's doing a great job talking about Islamist and socialist plot. And this is really amazing because if you've ever read the book called Statescraft by Margaret Thatcher, and I only picked up the book Margaret Thatcher after 9/11 because my mother once told me that if I wasn't named my name, I would have been named Margaret, and I would have loved probably that name, Margaret. Margaret Thatcher is brilliant. It's like Golda Meir. Now, not everybody's gonna love her. I understand. But in that book, whatever she said there is what was happening. It is totally unbelievable what Margaret Thatcher said. And she is on point. This lady, oh, I gotta get her name. Gotta get it. This is on Mayor Tausig TV, who I've been listening to lately. And I need to get the subscription. I forgot her name. Let me see if she did another one. Anyway, yeah. Oh gosh, I gotta get her name. I'm gonna put Iranian. I know she's a lawyer. She's very attractive. That's what people like to see. Not necessarily me, but I know that catches attention. Iranian-born attorney and TikTok activist Elica Le Bon criticized protesters and supporters of Iran's Islamic regime amid recent bombings of Israeli targets, saying they're supporting terrorist regime the Iranian people have been trying to free themselves from. So that is amazing. So she basically said exactly what Margaret Thatcher talked about way back in 2001. She says that communism goes in line with Islamism because it's a totalitarian tendency, because Islam is about political domination. It does not thrive in democracy unless you know you want to be a soft form of Islam, and the softer form of Islam is not the most revered form of Islam, meaning it's a bad form of Islam. So the more peaceful Islamic people are actually not fulfilling the zealousness that Allah requires. And anybody that is zealous looks down on the peaceful people because they see them as a weak Islamic person, a weak Muslim. But she spells it out very well. If you look at communism, it is basically a lot of dictatorial, even though they're supposed to have like a ruling class that is about egalitarian, and it never really happens. It's totally utopia. It doesn't work. And a lot of those nations, they suppress the people, and then it can actually, like, for example, China, they seem to be doing well, but actually they're not, because uh, it has a tendency to minimize individuality to the point that it eats itself up. So right now in China, the extensive control, now people are not motivated, and there's a lot of changes that's happening and in China, and there's a lot of Christians growing in China now, and then in the Soviet basically brought that communism into China when Japan went after them first, and then Russia kind of came along and went to China, and Chinese people took in the communist, the Soviet teaching, and that's how they became communists. And I could not believe there's an extensive history on that. But the literacy rate for Muslim people is lower than the West. There's also uh, a lot of volatility. For example, Sunni and Shiite always fights, and in particular in Iran, the Iranian people don't have any. The women just feel like they can't show their hair, and along with that not showing the hair, they have very little to no opportunities, and to the point that they don't even care anymore. They're sacrificing themselves on the street uh, for the modesty police to get after them, because they feel like they don't see a future. And it's a really sad case in Iran, and no matter how many times they had tried to beg the world to help them and to be on their side, their people have turned a blind eye. The U.S. have turned a blind eye. The Western nations have turned a blind eye. And there is Iran throwing their money at all 5 different places all over the Middle East to attack Israel, but and to pour money into the Palestinian region, but the Iranian people themselves are suffering. So my heart just goes out to them because I cannot imagine what these women are going through. I mean, I did have a grandmother that, during this, she was alive during the First World War and the Second World War too, because she raised her kids during the Second World War. And my grandmother made a point, because she had a little bit of a status, she made sure that women can vote. So my grandma was one of the women that promoted women's suffrage in the Philippines. And these people in Iran, it doesn't matter how good their family is, they have no right to speak up. And I am praying that even though when I speak with Iranians, they don't really think anything can change, but I do hope and pray that there would be um, support for the Iranians to be set free from the Islamic regime. Other than that, there are churches growing in Iran at record number. And I remember when 2011, the Lord put in my heart to really pray for the Muslim. I just felt so grieved. I just could not. I was doing every single day. It's like I would cry. Um, I could just sense the grieving of the Holy Spirit over the Muslim people. And I'm like, how are they ever going to get saved? And then I have Muslim friends. In fact, in college, I had a Muslim boy, but he's not really Muslim. He's Iraqi. And all of us, the Indian, the atheist, me, and I'm like nominally a Christian back then, we would all hang out, and the only thing we could ever eat is chicken because one can't have beef and the other one can't have pork. So we're stuck with chicken, and you know, every now and then, I notice. Anyhow, I'm getting all over the place here, but I really wanted to just thank the women of Iran and for speaking out. And there's a lot of Iranian women that were survivors. They were victims of abuse. And one lady said, there is no reason, there is no cause to justify rape. They are weaponizing raping women, and they are flaunting that. And why these feminist women are supporting it, it is the most insane thing I had ever seen. Like, you cannot, as a feminist, be promoting rape. And why they're not going after that, it is total insanity, complete confusion. They're just like she says, those that are feminists are allowing the rape. Those that say they're anti-fascists are creating the war. Those that are peaceful protesters end up rioting, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of this weird, whatever they say they are, they do the opposite. And my heart just grieves over it, but I do trust that as more and more women exposing this atrocity and the disdain, the turning the blind eye on all these women who had been abused, I am praying that they would have a platform and that Iran would have a new leader. And I am also praying for Palestinians to, I mean, I think what the world really wants to know is how is that going to be governed? And in my mind, well, it shouldn't be too hard. It should be Israel governing the Palestinians, but they probably don't like that. Well, then maybe get one that is anti-Sharia law. Get a leader that's anti-Sharia law for the Palestinians, for the Arabs. So they can still be practicing Islam if they want to, but they're not going to have Sharia law. I mean, if that is ever a possibility. Or I would say it'd have to be one that is against an anti, it should be an anti-terrorist leader, meaning they're not going to train children to be terrorists and to destroy Israel, that they're going to want to have a future. And I do think that that is what, I mean, how are Muslims doing in Turkey? They seem to be doing well, but they are not, I mean, even though I don't know how this leader is going to do in the future, because they're definitely got a big military in Turkey. But there is a way to govern the Muslims and the Arabs in Israel, because the Muslims in the US seem to be well behaved. They're well behaved because every one of us, can have a gun. They know they too can have a gun, but they know that we can put them in check. And those Muslims that come here should know better, because we do have a great military, and we have a lot of Muslims that just want to live a good life. So there are Muslims that want to live a good life, but for that to happen in a place like Israel, they're going to have to find the consensus and figure out where to put people, because you'll be lucky if they can go out as a refugee to the West, but not so many people want them because of all of this chaos and their ideologies. No one wants their ideology. But I hope and pray that they would have a change of heart, that there is a renewal in Israel, upon those Arabs that to want to live and to have a future. And I was just seeing I saw like one of the commercials, and they were showing all these cats that were like didn't have a home, and they were just running around all dirty. And I was like, this is the state of Israel, and this is what happened when people choose terrorists for a government. I mean, don't pick thugs to lead the country. I mean, it's complete chaos. And all those tunnels are getting found, and I know that Israel will be safer next year, especially. And I'm actually looking forward, if the Lord leads me to go to Israel. I think next year will be a good time to go. Either way, I want to be able to witness what's going on in Israel, and I'm very thankful that the Lord has kept me alive thus far, despite all the videos that I've ever done for Muslims. So I know that there are people that they want to know the truth, and they do not seek to harm people. They really need to know. They want to know, and they're gonna know. If they want to know, they're gonna know. Okay, so there was this thing where it's like media. I actually signed up for it, but I need to look at. I mean, I have enough information to support Israel, so I'm not so worried about that. Um, and it says you can, if you want to support Israel on social media, we can give you the information and stuff, and that is really good. The one good thing about all these riots happening in the United States with these pro-Hamas uh, people rallying is that it's making the Jews outside of Israel smarter. They're starting to pick up now that life is not just about trying to be like a celebrity. Life is not just about being famous on TikTok and having uh having your skit at a stand-up comedy, or being praised for how smart you are. Now they're realizing that it is important for them to know the history, and they need to be able to articulate why they're in this world and what is going on. They are now going to Israel and trying to figure out and witnessing what had happened there. And there is this definitely growing solidarity. It's just taking a little bit of time to express itself, but it is coming. And I think the Iranian people are coming along as well. And Hamas is definitely losing grounds, and Hezbollah is going to lose grounds, and all the other Palestinian Islamist jihad, they're all starting to learn a lesson, and if not them, their family. So I'm really looking forward to what is going to happen, but I do believe that Israel needs to continually be explicit in terms of their goals for this war, but also how they're going to govern the Palestinians or the Arabs in Israel. There is a way to do it because the US does it all the time. We have a lot of Muslims all over the world. They're not necessarily acting crazy all the time. It is kept in check. I don't think we suffer the same way that they do in London and Paris and Italy with all their bums up in the air. No, they don't do that on our street. And should they try, they're going to get a good swat. They're going to get, we have the SWAT team, by the way. So Muslims wouldn't want to be lifting their bums. Uh, that is supposed to be a joke. The other thing that I was thinking about, like in terms of anti-Semitism, besides just standing up on social media and on this pro-Israel rally, uh, I think we need anteaters. That is my one other solution, is to get anteaters, because there's just too many ants. And other than that, I think we need to have the elephants, because the elephants, in the name elephants, there is an ant in there, and then there's an elf, but it's a big animal. And what I mean is, actually we need the Republican. We need the Republican, because the Republican has done a great job clearing up the whole university issue. They really rallied for Israel, and I'm so grateful that I am one of them. Even though most of my vote never counted because they always kept my vote on provision, which really hurts my feelings. And Donald Trump, so much backlash on him, and there's still a lot of people don't know what to believe. They're like, oh, it's just a controlled opposition, and I'm like, no, I don't think so. I think the New World Order is very clear on what they wanted, and anybody going against them gets the hit. And Donald Trump, they're trying so hard not to let him in, and there is no one else. It seems like in the same manner as Israel, it's like as many people there that doesn't want Netanyahu. I'm kind of like, are you kidding me? You can't. They tried changing the prime minister two times, and then there's an additional prime minister with Netanyahu, and they still think that he's not doing a good job. But the threat of this hyper volatile Hamas, it was just, they just got so volatile and so insane that the ideology, because of their threat to continually do it over and over, there is no choice but this war. And if it is cut short, I can see where very easily any tunnels is just expanded, because you still have, there is not yet a revolution in Iran. There needs to be a revolution in Iran, honestly. My personal opinion is the Iranian leadership has got to be toppled over and their commanders down and out. And then Israel can really have more of a security that they are not, because the rockets are still going. This is what I'm saying. Like, the rockets kept going in Israel. And people are saying, we'll do a ceasefire. Now, we don't have rockets in the U.S. If we had rockets in the U.S., we are at war. But Israel has had rockets for so many years, and they were not declaring a war. And yeah, it's terrible for the the visitors not being able to come to Israel as much as they'd want to. I mean, the tourism is definitely down, and that's how most of the people survive there. But it's like they cannot do it too short. They have to find a representative that the Palestinians, the Arabs are going to accept. And how are you going to do that? You'd have to separate the people that are severely infected with the Islamic mentality. If they don't want to change, one thing I know about these Muslims, I shouldn't say that, is that they do respond and follow rules if you are tough on them. If you're not tough, they break every rule. So there is like a superiority complex with that group, and I could see that when I travel a lot, because I don't see Japanese doing that. You do not see Japanese being all proud when they, like, they're not gonna, they have their own culture, but they don't try to implement that anywhere, you know. But Filipinos too, or even Mexicans. We have Mexicans here, but they eat, they eat Mexican foods, yes, but I think they enjoy American culture. They very much enjoy American culture. I see them assimilating a lot of people, even Vietnamese people assimilate, Chinese people assimilate. Now, something about the ideology of Islam, it doesn't allow people to assimilate as good as they should. And I think they could. And US is one big example that they can. But in Israel, because I think it's kind of like there's this brainwashing, and on top of the brainwashing, there's like a demonic control upon them, and we need to really pray over this. So nothing is going to be changed overnight, but I'm going to put it in the, I think Israel, the news, what people probably need on the news, is just my personal perception, is that there needs to be bullet points. People wanted to see progress, and there is great progress, but all they're seeing is rubbles right now, like just crushed buildings, and it's not fun to look at, of course. And now we've got fires, now we got to deal with that too, and I'm kind of like, ooh, you're gonna need a lot of firefighters, you're gonna need to have, blanket, you need to have wet blanket everywhere, you need to be watering your homes at this point, like. And between watering your homes and getting rid of the rockets and eliminating them in the air and finding the supply chain, and at least now they know they're closing the Egypt border and plugging up all those tunnels. And I'm not sure what is these tunnels. I mean, are the tunnels going to be, I know it's being flooded and some of them are being sealed, but are they, can that be used in any other way other than that, or can it be used for a better purpose, like bomb shelters? I mean, what, how, or an aqueduct? I don't know. How are you going to use those tunnels? Should it should just be shut down, because you don't want them reusing it. So I think the people wanted to know, like, list of plans, which would be great. And I know at war, what can you do? I mean, how much can you really plan at this point when it's not yet over? But I know Jewish people are very ingenious, and what I saw in England is that in England, all the things that was hit by the Blitz, by all of the bombs, got developed. So I'm hoping and praying the same thing could happen in Gaza, but not have it under Arab ruling, but rather under Israel ruling. But there would be a stipulation for the people going back that they have to contribute, and they have to be against, terrorism, to renounce terrorism. Like it's an act of repentance. They literally have to sign on the dotted line that I do not condone um, anti-Semitic rhetoric, and I am gonna do my best to be a good citizen. And what does it mean to be a good citizen? They need to have some kind of check mark, and they need to almost quarantine, those Hamas mindset growth. The people that have a Hamas mindset, they need to be separated. The people that are wanting peace and are in agreement that they just want to have a better future, you have to separate them. And then that way it's not too crazy. And then where are you going to put the people? I guess you'd have to have a big jail or put them in one island, I don't know, and put them to work. So there's just so many things. I mean, there needs to be a committee of people, uh, you know, that are gonna figure out what to do with Gaza and the West Bank and all the people there, because no one's gonna absorb the Arabs in Israel. Egypt don't want them, Jordan don't want them, and I feel bad for them and I feel bad for their cats, but it's like, I hope they learn their lessons, that you don't pick a terrorist for a leader, because it is gonna destroy you and your family. Now, to what degree they're willing to understand that, I don't know, but I am seeing that there are some Palestinians that are now putting the blame on Hamas, and they're really upset about it, and it's a sincere statement. Um, so anyway, I think this is all I'm gonna say right now, but I think there needs to be a list of what is the goal, how much is the goal being achieved, where are we, and Is there going to be a committee to figure out what we're going to do for Gaza and the West Bank? And the United Nations is so insane. And how is the United Nations going to get off of the backs of Israel? And I'm looking at Iran and I'm like, Iran still has the same leadership, and this is going to affect Israel, and it's affecting all of those proxies. And how do we break the Islamic regime's control on those Islamists and all those terrorists? I mean, you're talking about Iraq, Qatar, Yemen, it's Syria, Lebanon, and then one thing that is happening is that I think there's these Christians that are getting massacred by the Islamists, and they can make a good military for Israel. And I think there needs to be a committee now that's gonna, okay, here's a big piece of paper, and what are people looking forward to? It's just like I get all these questionnaires and surveys to check off what, if you're in the Republican Party, do you need this? Are you concerned about the border? Are you concerned about drugs? Are you concerned about? So write down, what are people's concern? What do they want to happen to their children and their future? I think you're gonna need to have an educational system that has both Arabic and Hebrew and English. You need Arabic, Hebrew, and English, and you need to have uh, education where how many. Oh, I was reading it. There was quite a bit of interesting statements that this Palestinian people know Hebrew, and they said, well, it's not mandatory to know, but they can kind of understand it, but they never really study it. And then somebody says, oh, I love learning Hebrew. And she's obviously Arab Palestinian. And she says, I love learning Hebrew. I'm so glad that I got the opportunity to study Hebrew. How many Arabs want to learn Hebrew? So maybe start off with that. So you need to have a questionnaire to kind of figure out where people are, and to have a community where they can gather with Jewish people, and the people that are wanting to have future will be able to speak up, and those that have sincere care for the future and wants a peaceful coexistence. So that is a lot to deal with, especially at times of war. But this is where, bread has a very powerful, bread is a powerful tool, you know, and Hamas. I'm not talking about Hamas, but chickpeas, you know, chickpeas are powerful. Yeah, we need chickpeas. We don't want Hamas. So we need ant eaters. We need a lot of ant eaters, and we need more Republicans to help. And Israel is just one piece of art. It's just unbelievable what one little country is going through. It's unbelievable, and my heart just goes out to the people in Israel, including the innocent people in the Palestinians. But again, these casualties, um, even though it's still low, I mean, if it's going to continue till December, there's going to be more casualty. Uh, Even the IDF, 2 to 3 IDFs die every single day. They say 2.5, maybe sometimes more. Hopefully it goes down, and we really need to close off all of those tunnels, especially temporarily, before they could figure out a better way to use them. And we certainly need a committee, because they're gonna have to redo almost kind of like a kibbutz going on in Gaza. That will be comprised of Arab, Israeli, and they really need to maintain Jewish presence in the Gaza and in the West Bank. So anyway, I don't have all the answers. All I know is that I have to take sides, and I'd rather speak out than not, because I want to use my freedom in the best way possible. And I'm gonna go to bed soon. Thank you and God bless.